that yes, we're going to fail sometimes. Despite that you're going to lose out sometimes some battles, you have to continuously fight and not give up.
Wherever you get your podcasts from, or our own website, prismoftorah.com. This is The Prism of Torah with Rav Esav Aaron Prisman. This week, Parshas Vayishlach, the fight of life.
Shalom to everyone. In this week's Parshas Vayishlach, I would like to share with you a moratic idea, some deep concepts that I saw and heard by Rav Zev Leff. And Yirtzeh Hashem will connect it with a story to another topic in this week's Parsha. So we all know there's a famous episode where Yaakov finds him with the angel, and he was fighting off the angel. As it says in Perek Lamed Beis, Pasuk Kaf Daled. The question I want to raise over here are two main questions. Question number one, it's very interesting that the angel at the end said, from now on your name will not only be Yaakov, but it'll also be Yisrael. Why? From the Lashon Ki Sarita im Elokim. You were able to fight off the angel. You were fighting with the angel, and hence that will be your name. That means that his name is based on the action of fighting. What is it? And we know Klal Yisrael is called Am Yisrael, based on this. That means that there has to be something very intrinsic about this whole idea of fighting off and going to challenges and fighting. What is that Yesod? What is that concept? And why is it so imperative that Ad Kedei Kach, all of Am Yisrael are called by this name? Question number two, who was this angel? Well, it seems to be Lichoira that there is a lot of inconsistencies in Chazal, because Midrash Rabbah, as Rashi brings down, we know that this angel was Saro Shel Esav, also known as the Satan himself. On the other hand, if you look in the Yalkut Shimoini, he says this angel was Michael. So what's going on? To make things even more convoluted, the Rashbam over here on this pasuk says that the angel stopped Yaakov from running away. There was an angel that stopped Yaakov from running away to ensure that he doesn't run away from Esav. And yeah, don't worry, Hashem promised you everything will be okay. You go and confront Esav. Don't run away. So is there a way to make all these midrashim shtim together? And perhaps there's different perspectives over here that we're able to learn from them different things, but they're not necessarily in concepts contradictory. In order to try to reach some answers over here, we have to go back to the drawing board and see how the Torah, what is the Torah view about challenges and struggles and fighting? So if we look, once again, in the Mesilas Yesharim, he clearly says that all this world is one big fight, one big challenge. Why? Because that was the way it was meant to be. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put us in this world, and we know that the purpose in this world is to earn Olam Haba. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to feel like we earn it, and hence we had to go through this world in order to achieve the world to come. But how do we do that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu put two forces which seem to be totally contradictory. The neshama, the spiritual neshama within the physical body. And that is the main fight. We always are fighting and have this ma'avak tmidi, continuous fighting between the spiritual side and the physical side. And every time we win with our spiritual side, then we get closer to Kadosh Baruch Hu and we earn a bigger chelik in Olam Haba. And that's the whole idea of what we're here for. Because every time we step up to the plate and fight off the Yetzer Hara, we reach a higher level in the ladder of life. And that's what we're here for. And that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu being meitiv to us. And that's exactly why when after Yaakov had such a difficult life, he had so many challenges. He had the challenge that Esav was running after him, the life he had in Lavan that always tried to trick him. Then he had the whole story with his daughter Dinah, and then his wife Rachel passed away suddenly. So finally he wanted a life of more on his level, tranquility. Vayeshiv Yaakov, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, no way. Tzadikim, that's the worst thing for a tzaddik. For anyone it's the worst thing. Kol sheken for a tzaddik. Because not only are they going to get the reward in the world to come. They want to have a life of tranquility over here. That's not what it's meant for. They have to continuously fight, step up to the plate, have challenges, and through the challenges they grow. And even if you have a break in challenges, then you have to work on yourself and bring your own challenges to ensure you continue growing. And of course, Yaakov was on a high level, but on his level, HaKadosh Baruch Hu felt that he was trying to take a break and just, as they say, take time out. And that is not what we're here for. This is the famous concept of Adam la'amal yulad, that we're here for work, for fighting, for growing. Famous Midrash says that from this struggle between Yaakov and the angel, the dust went all the way up to the Kisei HaKavod of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which by saying that represents that it's going to have a major effect on the spiritual DNA of the world. Because that is how Hashem created the world, for us to be able to fight off any challenges we have with the Yetzer Hara to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now we are ready to answer one of the questions we raised. Who was this angel? There are more Chazals that say that at some point the angel seemed to be in disguise, looked like a robber, and sometimes he looked like a Talmid Chacham. What's going on? Perhaps we can explain everything. Rav Zev Leff wants to say as follows. The angels are always coming to help us. Sometimes it has to be in disguise of a Michael, a Talmid Chacham, someone coming to help us. And yes, it might mean pushing us to fight because we're trying to run away from struggles, from challenges. But that is gufa how we grow in life. And that's what happened with the Talmid Chacham. That's what happened. That's represented and symbolized by the Talmid Chacham. And that's what happened with Michael. He told Yaakov, no, you have to fight. Don't worry, Hashem promised you, you'll be okay. But you have to fight. You can't just sit down and do nothing. You have to step up to the plate and take the challenge and fight the evil forces, Yetzer Hara. And that, of course, was in favor of Yaakov. And even the Satan himself, that angel is also in favor of Yaakov because it's showing him that yes, indeed you do have to fight. You have to fight me. But through fighting me, you'll appreciate what life is all about. And once the angel does that, everything is Ratzon Hashem. From both perspectives is Ratzon Hashem. Because through these challenges, a person gets closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even when the Satan fights, it's to ensure we fight back and we appreciate that this is what life is all about. And it's a continuous challenge. And we're meant to grow through those challenges. Even Yaakov at the end realized that. Because at the end he wouldn't let the angel go. He wanted to continue fighting. Because he realized it's for his best and that's what life is all about. And where do we get this strength from? Where do we get the strength from to continuously fight the Yetzer Hara and by that getting close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and hopefully also achieve the big chelik in Olam Haba? That, of course, comes from the Torah. As we know, Chazal teach us that there's a huge Yetzer Hara HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world, but there's also a tavlin, a spice, to fight it off, and that's the Torah. Why is it called a tavlin, a spice? Because we're not totally shutting down the Yetzer Hara. Afuch, we're using the Yetzer Hara to do Ratzon Hashem. And that's also Pshat in B'chol Levavecha. We have to work Hashem with both hearts, also Yetzer Hara. And that's why it's a best adjective to call it like a tavlin, a spice. You put it on something that's not so good and it changes it to become good. And Yaakov Avinu is the best personification for that because he represents Torah. Yeshiv Oalim. Yes, he took that Torah with him to fight all the challenges he had in life. The Midrash Tanchuma over here says that the angel didn't understand how Yaakov had the ability to continuously fight for so long. And hence, he tried to hurt him exactly in the hip joint. We know the Gira Nashe. Why? Because that symbolizes the difference between angels and people. Angels never sit down. They're always on the go. They're always standing. Whereas people, when they go through challenges, sometimes they have to take a break because they failed and they sit down. But Yaakov continued fighting even after the angel hit him. And he wanted to make sure, who is this? This is an angel as well? Is Yaakov an angel? And then realized he's not an angel. And despite the fact that he was limping, he still continued to fight. And that is the biggest lesson over here. That yes, we're going to fail sometimes. And that's why Your name will be Yaakov sometimes still, but it's also Yisrael. Despite that you're going to lose out sometimes some battles, you have to continuously fight and not give up. Once I mentioned this famous mashal in the Russian army, when they tried to see who's fitting to be in the army, they put tons of armor on them that weighed 5 times their weight on a huge wild horse, and they wanted to see what? Not if he falls or not. It was obvious everyone's going to fall. The question is, how quickly is he going to go back up on the horse, or is he going to give up? And that's exactly the challenge we have in life. Are we going to, chas v'shalom, be depressed and yes, sit down? Or are we going to try to be like angels as much as we can and continue walking in the path of life, continuing battling and stepping up to the plate with the challenges that the Yetzer Hara gives us, which we know is only for our best to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and achieve Olam Haba. That's exactly the opposite of being in a depression. A person in depression doesn't want to wake up, just stays in his bed, does nothing. And we're coming to La'apuke from that. With that, we've answered our other question, that yes, there's sometimes a Michael that helps us and pushes us to fight when we need to. And sometimes it's like a Talmid Chacham that helps us to do the right thing and pushes us to do the right thing. And sometimes it comes about in the fact that we have to fight off the Yetzer Hara, the Satan himself. Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim. It's different perspectives at looking what's happening. The Chinuch explains that this mitzvah, because of Yaakov being wounded in the Gid HaNashe, which is translated to as the sciatic nerve, it represents this idea, yes, sometimes we're going to fail, it's going to happen, but we shouldn't give up, just like Yaakov didn't give up. And as Chazal teach us at the end, what came out? He went limping. And then the sun came, which represents Olam Haba, Mashiach, and it healed him. So too, the same is going to be. In Olam Haba, we too are going to be healed in the sense that we're going to get a chelik in Olam Haba, and everything will end up being, and we'll see why everything was worth it. So even though it seems like things are sometimes difficult, but really it's through that difficulty that we're going to be able to grow, get Olam Haba, and get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore we should embrace the challenge and be happy with half challenges. Ad Kedei Kach, Rav Dessler says that the word Ra, which represents evil, bad, spelt up the other way is Er, awakens us up to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and stand to the plate. It's through those challenges that we grow. And therefore they're a necessity for us. And it's through the things that seem difficult in life, at the end, we grow through them. And they are our saviors. Yeh Ratzon will be able to step up to the plate at all times and continuously fight off the Yetzer Hara, making our neshama win over our physical body and elevate the physical body to become also more spiritual, as the Ramchal always speaks about. I want to end up with a story. Today, literally half an hour ago, I was sitting with a very special bachur in the yeshiva I teach. He asked me not to say his last name. His first name is Rabbi Yaakov, ironically. And in his life, he had all kinds of challenges. And as he said to me, he reached to a certain degree rock bottom. Until there was a major turning point in his life 2 years ago. He went with his family to the beach, and he went fishing with his father and his couple of siblings. And he's going to the beach, and it was a crazy day in the beach. He went to fishing, so it wasn't really a proper beach. There was no lifeguard, nothing. And there was another family, a father and 2 kids there. Now he went as deep as he could so that he could go fishing. And because the tide was in, he could go pretty deep in a certain area. And suddenly, to make a long story short, he realizes that the 2 kids of this father drift away. And the father's up to his waist in water. And it seemed like he didn't know how to swim. And he's looking at this bachur, Rabbi Yaakov, and he's trying with his eyes to signal to him, please help me. But it was a crazy day. The waves were really high. No one dared to go in. There weren't so many people, only he could really do anything. Meanwhile, Rabbi Yaakov's father was there in the back screaming, don't go in. Whatever you do, don't go in. And he's told me his father never screams. Never. Everything was benachas. This is the only time he heard him scream. he really didn't know what to do because it seemed like it was going to be literally game over for these two kids. He looks from the corner of his eye, he sees this rubber little kids boats, those rafts that they have. He ran to get it without asking permission. He took it. He looked at his father. His father didn't know what to say. He didn't say anything. So he felt that was, in a way, that he gave him his approval now. He ran into the crazy waters, and he told me at the time I didn't know how I was able to do it. I didn't think I have enough strength to do this. So I'll keep it short, and maybe another time we'll say all the incredible details, but it ended up being huge siyata dishmaya. Even though he went all the way, he got the two kids, he put them on the raft, some guy then came to help him, he brought them back, then again one kid fell and went back, started crying. He literally saved their lives, these two kids, and their father, who he didn't even realize, but the father also got drifted away, and he had to go and save him. And at the point when finally he got them back, then they came, all the Hatzalah and rescue people came and revived them and helped them out and took them, and Baruch Hashem, he saved their lives. He doesn't even know who these people are. And when he got back to shore, because there was a lot of rocks, there was a rocky area, he was bleeding everywhere, he had cuts everywhere. But at the end of the day, he said it's the adrenaline, which by the way is another nikud of what we spoke about. The fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created such a thing to occur in the world, adrenaline, that it gives you koichos to do things you wouldn't even imagine you're able to do. That's what he felt at the time. But the biggest win over here was that number one, he realized the chasadim that Hashem did for him. For him to have this opportunity to save people's lives. He was so happy, it gave him such a good feeling. And he worked really hard for it. It wasn't easy for him. He didn't even know if he could make it. His mother was crying the whole time, seeing everything that was happening. He didn't do it for kavod, he did it because he wanted to help another Jew. But the biggest win over here was, at the end, he felt like a totally different person. He left all the shtusim that he was doing, smoking this and that and whatnot, without getting into details, and it was the biggest turning point in his life. This is 2 years ago, and he now sits, learns, and you could talk to him. He's a totally different person. Not that I knew him then, I only was introduced to him today, but I thought it was mishamayim that I have to share this story with you. That we see from here two things. Number one, the chasadim HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us all the time, especially to those people that were saved and they put Yaakov over there exactly at the right time. And number two, that it's through the challenge that he grew. It's this challenge that he had to make a split decision if to go try and save these people. And he decided to, yes, I'm going to fight it off. I'm going to fight off the Yisrael. I'm going to try to save these people because it's the biggest mitzvah ever and I want to help them out. And so we see through this amazing true story how not only did HaKadosh Baruch Hu give him chasadim to have this opportunity to save people's lives, but also the ability to do it. And it's through this chesed that Hashem did with him and with also that family that was saved, that he totally was able to pick himself up and change his whole life 180 degrees around. Yiratzon, we come to this Havana that life is all about fighting to beat our Yetzer Hara, to let our spiritual side win over the physical, and by that achieving Olam Haba and closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which, as we all know, that is what life is all about. Have a good Shabbos.
Thank you for joining us. This is the Prism of Torah. Visit our website, prismoftorah.com, where you'll find a full archive of hundreds of past Divrei Torah. Subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review, and don't forget to share with your friends and family. Sponsorship opportunities are available for all of our episodes. Thank you, Yona Vefa, for your recording equipment. Produced by Eli Podcast Productions.